The time capsule was discovered during renovation work at the former St. Catherine's Naval Academy in Portsmouth, Virginia. Workers demolishing an interior wall found a copper box sealed behind the plaster, marked with the inscription, "Opened in 1997, 100 years hence." Except it was now 2024, 27 years past its intended opening date. The building had been sold and converted to apartments in the 1980s, and no one had thought to look for a time capsule that should have been opened during the centennial celebration that never happened. I was called in as a historical preservationist to catalogue the contents. The box contained typical time capsule items: newspapers from 1897, a program from the school's graduation ceremony, letters written by students to the children of 1997, and several photographs. One photograph immediately caught my attention. It was a large group portrait showing approximately 50 students arranged in 5 rows on wooden bleachers. They all wore dark sailor-style uniforms with white collars and caps, the standard dress for Naval Academy students of the era. Most of the students looked to be between 10 and 16 years old. 2 adult men, presumably instructors, stood at either end of the group. The photograph was in remarkable condition, protected by the sealed copper box. The faces were clear, the details sharp. And that's why I noticed something that made me pause. One boy in the 3rd row, slightly left of center, looked different from the others. Not dramatically different. His uniform was the same, his posture similar. But there was something about his face, about the way he appeared in the photograph, that seemed anachronistic. His features were too clear, too modern somehow. While the other students had the typical soft focus and slight blur that came with 1890s photographic technology and long exposure times. This boy appeared almost sharp, as though he'd been photographed with more advanced equipment. I dismissed it as a trick of the light or preservation, but I carefully documented the photograph, scanning it at high resolution, and moved on to cataloguing the other contents of the time capsule. 2 weeks later, I was contacted by a local history enthusiast named Robert Chen. He'd seen my report about the time capsule discovery and wanted to share something he'd found in his own research on St. Catherine's Naval Academy. "I've been collecting photographs of the school for years," he told me over the phone. "I have dozens of class photos, graduation pictures, sports teams, but there's one photograph that's always bothered me, and when I saw your scan of the 1897 class photo, I realized why." He sent me a digital file. It was another class photograph, this one labeled St. Catherine's Naval Academy, class of 1921. The photograph showed a similar setup, students in sailor uniforms arranged on bleachers. The style was noticeably different from the 1897 image, reflecting changes in photographic technology and fashion over 24 years. The uniforms had evolved slightly. The postures were more relaxed. Several students smiled, which would have been unusual in 1897. And in the 3rd row, slightly left of center, was the same boy. I stared at the image for a long time, comparing it to the 1897 photograph. Same face, same expression, same slight head tilt. The uniform was updated to the 1921 style, but the boy was identical. "You see it too," Robert said when I called him back. "I thought I was going crazy. I've had both images for months. I found the 1921 photograph at an estate sale, and I kept thinking one of the boys looked familiar. When I saw your scan of the 1897 photo, I realized where I'd seen him before. "It has to be a coincidence," I said. "A descendant who resembled his grandfather or something. Families did send multiple generations to the same school." That's what I thought at first. But look closer. It's not just a resemblance. It's the same person, same features, same age. If it were a grandfather and grandson, the grandson should look 24 years older. But he doesn't. He looks exactly the same age, maybe 14 or 15. I enhanced both images, examining them side by side. Robert was right. This wasn't a family resemblance. This was the same person, appearing in photographs taken 24 years apart, not aging a day. I started researching the Academy's records. St. Catherine's Naval Academy had operated from 1882 to 1956, when it closed due to declining enrollment. The building had changed hands several times before being converted to apartments. Most of the school's records had been donated to the Virginia Historical Society. I spent days going through enrollment records, trying to match faces from the photographs to names. The 1897 class photo had a notation on the back, listing some of the students, but it was incomplete. The 1921 photograph had no identification at all. Then I found something in the newspaper archives. A brief article from the Portsmouth Daily Times, November 1897. Tragedy at Naval Academy. A student at St. Catherine's Naval Academy died yesterday in circumstances that authorities describe as unusual. Daniel Witmore, age 14, was found unconscious in the school's basement and pronounced dead shortly thereafter. The cause of death has not been determined, though there were no signs of violence or injury. Young Witmore was described by instructors as a quiet, studious boy who kept largely to himself. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Witmore of Norfolk, have been notified. The school has suspended classes for 2 days in respect for the deceased. I searched for more information about Daniel Witmore's death, but found only a brief obituary. He'd been buried in Cedar Grove Cemetery in Norfolk. No cause of death was listed. But I did find the school's enrollment records for 1897. Daniel Witmore had enrolled in September. The class photograph had been taken in October. And he'd died in November, about a month after the photograph was taken. I looked at the 1897 class photo again, examining each face carefully. Using the partial list of names on the back and cross-referencing with enrollment records, I tentatively identified the boy in the third row, slightly left of center, as Daniel Witmore, which meant Daniel Witmore appeared in a photograph taken in 1921, 24 years after his death. I contacted Robert. "I think I've identified the boy, Daniel Witmore. He was a student in 1897, and he died in November of that year. Dead in 1897, but photographed in 1921, Robert said quietly. "How is that possible?" "I don't know, but I think we need to find out if there are any other photographs of St. Catherine's classes. If he appears in 1897 and 1921, maybe he appears in other years too." Over the next several weeks, Robert and I tracked down every photograph we could find of St. Catherine's Naval Academy classes. We found 12 in total, spanning from 1897 to 1952. Daniel Witmore appeared in 7 of them: 1897, 1921, 1933, 1940, 1945, 1949, and 1952. Always in roughly the same position, third row, slightly left of center. Always the same age, around 14 or 15. Always wearing the current style of uniform. Always with that same expression, that same slight head tilt. In the photographs where he didn't appear, 1905, 1912, 1927, 1937, and 1951, we couldn't determine why he was absent. But in more than half of the class photographs spanning 55 years, a boy who had died in 1897 appeared among the living students. "This is impossible," Robert kept saying. "There has to be an explanation, photographic manipulation, or someone who looked remarkably similar, or something." But I'd examined the photographs carefully. There was no evidence of manipulation. The images were continuous, showing no signs of composite work or addition, and the similarity went beyond mere resemblance. It was identical features, identical expression, the same person appearing decade after decade, not aging, not changing, always 14 years old. I decided to investigate Daniel Witmore's death more thoroughly. The newspaper had described the circumstances as unusual, which suggested something beyond a typical illness or accident. I found a more detailed account in a journal kept by the school's headmaster in 1897, preserved in the Virginia Historical Society archives, November 15th, 1897. "A terrible tragedy has befallen the school. Young Daniel Witmore was found this morning in the basement, in the old storage room near the boiler. He was cold to the touch, his body already stiffening, though he cannot have been dead for more than an hour or two. What troubles me most is the expression on his face. Not peaceful, as one would hope, but startled, almost frightened. And the circumstances are most peculiar. The storage room door was locked from the inside. Daniel should not have been able to enter without a key, yet he was found within, and the key was on my desk, where I had left it the previous evening. The doctor found no cause of death, no injury, no sign of illness, nothing to explain why a healthy boy of 14 should simply cease to live. It is as though his heart simply stopped, though the doctor assures me hearts do not stop without reason in boys so young. Several students have reported seeing Daniel in the days following his death, walking the corridors at night, always heading toward the basement stairs. I attribute this to grief and youthful imagination, though I confess the reports unsettle me. I have ordered the basement storage room sealed until we can determine what happened there. Sealed until they could determine what happened. But apparently, they never did determine it, because I found no follow-up in the headmaster's journal or in any other records. I did find one more thing, a letter written by one of Daniel's classmates, found in a family collection, donated to the Historical Society years later. The letter was dated December 1897, written by a boy named Thomas Brennan to his parents. "Dear Mother and Father, I must tell you something that will sound like a tale from one of those penny dreadfuls, but I swear it is true. Daniel Witmore, the boy who died last month, is still here at the school. Not his body, of course, that was buried proper, but his spirit, I suppose you would call it. I've seen him 3 times now, always in the evening, always near the basement stairs. He never speaks, never approaches anyone. He simply stands there, looking at something we cannot see. And then he walks down the stairs and disappears. Other boys have seen him too. We've stopped talking about it because the masters say we're being foolish, but we all know what we've seen. Daniel is still here at St. Catherine's, and I think he always will be." Daniel Witmore had died in mysterious circumstances in 1897. His classmates had reported seeing his ghost afterward, and for the next 55 years, Until the school closed in 1956, he appeared in class photographs, standing among living students, forever 14 years old. Robert and I compiled all our findings into a comprehensive report. We documented the 7 photographs showing Daniel Witmore, the historical records of his death, the accounts of his ghost being seen at the school. But we couldn't explain how or why he appeared in the photographs. We could only document that he had. I made one final trip to Portsmouth to see the building that had housed St. Catherine's Naval Academy. It was a handsome apartment complex now, the original architecture preserved but modernized. The current owner agreed to let me explore the basement. The layout had changed significantly over the years, but I found what must have been the area where the storage room had been located. It was now part of the building's maintenance area, full of electrical panels and heating equipment. But on one wall, I found something that made my breath catch. A brass plaque, green with age, partially hidden behind a utility shelf. In memory of Daniel Witmore, student, 1897, forever young, forever here. Someone had placed a memorial plaque for Daniel in the basement where he'd died. And the words, forever here, felt like more than just a memorial sentiment. I took photographs of the plaque and sent them to Robert. His response was immediate. That's why he keeps appearing in the photographs. He never left. He died in that building in 1897, and some part of him has remained there ever since. When class photographs were taken, always in or near the building, he appeared in them because he was present. Not alive, but present. The camera captured what was there, even if it was something that shouldn't have been possible. I thought about that. About a 14-year-old boy who had died suddenly in a locked room, his heart simply stopping for no apparent reason. About his classmates seeing his ghost walking toward the basement stairs. About his image appearing in photograph after photograph, decade after decade. Always in the same relative position, always the same age. Daniel Witmore had died at St. Catherine's Naval Academy in November 1897. But he never left. When class photographs were taken in the following decades, 1921, 1933, 1940, 1945, 1949, 1952, he was there among the students, invisible to the naked eye, but visible to the camera. A ghost captured on film, appearing in 7 different photographs, spanning 55 years. Always standing in the 3rd row, slightly left of center. Always 14 years old. Always wearing the current style of uniform, as though he'd aged with the times, even though his body had not. Always with that same expression, that same slight head tilt. Forever young, forever here. The photographs now reside in the Virginia Historical Society's collection, along with all the documentation Robert and I compiled. The 7 images showing Daniel Witmore are displayed together, a visual timeline of the impossible, the same boy appearing in 1897, 1921, 1933, 1940, 1945, 1949, and 1952. Visitors often ask if the photographs have been authenticated, if we're certain they haven't been manipulated or altered. We show them the detailed analysis, the examination of the original prints, the testimony of photographic experts. The photographs are genuine. Daniel Witmore really did appear in those 7 class pictures, spanning more than half a century. He died in 1897, but he continued to appear in photographs taken decades later. A ghost captured by accident in class pictures, standing among living students who never knew he was there. The building still stands in Portsmouth. The brass plaque remains in the basement, though few know it's there. And sometimes, current residents report seeing a figure in an old-fashioned sailor uniform near the basement stairs. A boy of 14, forever walking down those stairs, forever returning to the place where he died, forever present in a building that was once his school. Daniel Witmore never left St. Catherine's Naval Academy. He's there still, invisible to the eye but present nonetheless. And if someone were to take a photograph in that building today, a group photo maybe, of the apartment residents gathered in the lobby, I wouldn't be surprised to see a faint figure standing among them. A boy in a sailor uniform from 1897, third row, slightly left of center, forever 14 years old, forever here. The photograph from the 1897 time capsule hangs in my office now, a loan from the Historical Society. Sometimes I look at it and try to imagine what Daniel Witmore was thinking when that photograph was taken in October 1897. Did he know he would die the following month? Did he know he would never leave this place? Did he know that for the next 55 years, his image would mysteriously appear in class photographs, standing among students who were born decades after his death? Or did he simply stand there, one boy among 50, thinking about nothing more than holding still for the camera, unaware that he would become a mystery that would puzzle people more than a century later? We'll never know. Daniel Witmore died taking his secrets with him. All we have are the photographs, 7 of them, spanning 1897 to 1952, showing the same impossible thing: a dead boy appearing among the living, forever young, forever here, forever captured on film, standing in the third row, slightly left of center, at St. Catherine's Naval Academy, the place where he died, and the place where, in some strange way, he continues to exist. The photograph doesn't lie. It shows what it shows. Daniel Witmore, present in 1897, and present in 1921, and present in 1933, and present in every other year. They photographed the class. Present even after death. Present for 55 years after his heart stopped beating. Present in the photographs, even though he shouldn't be. But he is. Undeniably, impossibly he is. One student appearing in a photo taken decades later. Because at St. Catherine's Naval Academy, some students never graduate. Some students never leave. And Daniel Witmore is forever standing in that third row, waiting for a dismissal that will never come.